Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Living with Intention. I am April Wyatt, for those of you who are not familiar with me, and I'm here to bring forward two amazing women here to talk about the quiet weight within that we all hold, whether it is in our personal or professional life. It's important for us to understand how this touches every aspect of our lives. That part that holds the pressure, the expectations that we put on ourselves, and that quiet weight that we carry, right? And we're trying to hold that and be strong for others and the world around us. And I'm speaking to professionals, to leaders, caregivers, and those high performers who move through life with that remarkable resiliency as they support others, and we keep going and do our best to stay steady, yet inside our body lives, right? And it's the collective moments that we never fully acknowledge that we're holding all of this weight, and being aware of the tensions that are showing up in our body, right? And that heaviness, maybe when we get up in the morning, and that push, we think our minds tell us that we need to push through to keep us going. And before I go any further, I just want to do a shout out to the Hounds of Business, right? As this is why I'm here. I remember pushing through. I remember being out there working solo. And as I say, going solo is a no-go. And through working with this amazing community with Mike Asherbranner and the fellow hounds here, if you're watching, please, chime in. Please give us a comment, as we're here to work together. As I'm bringing forward Sabrina and Victoria into this conversation, we don't have to go it alone, and it's an amazing network, and it really grows. And so this is why I'm here. So thank you, Mike Asherbranner and the Hounds of Business, for being part of this conversation. And also, whom I've met through the Hounds of Business is also Kevin Smith. He started the kindness movement, kindness worldwide. And it started out with somebody just simply returning his wallet, everything fully intact. And he decided to really talk about this and share about how much that meant to him, that somebody actually cared enough to drive his wallet back to his house and give it back to him. And since then, he's created a movement across the globe. And if you are a member of the Hounds of Business, we have a private viewing of his movie that's coming up. So be sure to check into our Mighty Network, and that's where you can find that poll to watch that video. And also that will be launching here shortly worldwide. So this is what we're here to do. We're here to promote kindness. We're here to ignite things that bring us alive, that unite us, because we all need kindness. And guess what? It's free. It's absolutely free. And you don't have to think that you have to give something during the holidays. Just a simple act of kindness goes a long way. And part of what I do is offer spaces where people can feel open and safe, right, to receive more. And this is through my restorative retreat in Bali. And that's happening in October 10th through the 17th of 2026. It's an amazing opportunity to come together and to be in a space where you can invite a pause, really tap into who you are as you're building a community with other amazing individuals. And Sabrina is going to be one of those individuals that's joining me. And there's just more to it. It's about being part of the culture. We go to a waterfall tour, we experience a local temple, we tune into the community of the children there and watch their traditional Balinese dancing. This is what I'm about. I want to be immersed in a culture. I want to give back and be part of that. So if you're curious and you want to come along with me, click on that, take a picture of that QR code up there, or just reach out to me. And find that on my website too, under retreats for Bali, because we all need a little more kindness in our lives. We all need that space where we can tune in and we can remember who we are, because that's where our true power is. And before we go any further, I want to bring up our amazing guests. And that is Victoria Snodgrass and Sabrina Johnson. Welcome, friends. Thank you for being here on this wonderful, well, it's a wonderful but heavy, pun intended, topic, that quiet weight within that we carry in our personal and professional lives. Really deep into the conversation. Sabrina, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about yourself so people know who you are and how you're supporting your community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a hypnotherapist. And the last time that I actually connected with Michelle Smith, she labeled me as a spiritual hypnotherapist.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that
I love Michelle.
because, yeah. So shout out to Michelle. But the reason that we came up with that name as spiritual hypnotherapist is because I have a spiritual community. So it really fits. And that's where we do Reiki, and I do spiritual mentorship to help you to recognize your energy and increase the flow of your energy. So there's a lot that I do in that way. And of course, hypnotherapy. So I combine everything.
Yeah, and it's so important because we need to be present and recognize our own energy, our own emotions when we are engaging with others or going throughout the day, in our lives. So I want to shout out to Alexandria for being here. She's the one that introduced me to Victoria. So thank you, Alexandria, for being here. You're an amazing light as well. And speaking of Victoria, yeah, bringing you up to share who you are and how you support your community.
Yes, hi. So I'm new to this. I call myself an empowerment coach. I'm not big on titles, but I really didn't know what else to call myself. I help people. I've organically seemed to be attracting people that struggle with what I used to struggle with, which is addiction, mental illness due to sexual abuse, severe depression and anxiety, and suicide. Because that was something that was unfortunately part of my path multiple times. So yeah, I've been doing this for not quite a year, and I'm just organically allowing spirit, God, the universe to bring in the right kind of people at the right time. And letting go and releasing and trusting seems to be working out really well for me.
That's so important to let go and allow, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah, and because of holding that, the weight of other people's actions that we cannot control, holding the weight of thinking about the future and being uncertain about it, or maybe even the past of what we've done, and kind of having that, challenge of kind of untangling that.
Right. Yeah. For me, I was, in survival mode most of my life. And I mean, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in survival mode. So part of um, I was just very controlling. I didn't trust myself, and I couldn't trust anybody else because of that. So finally realizing I was carrying this baggage around that never belonged to me, and it weighed heavy on me, and it was a block, a huge obstacle that I didn't know how to overcome. And it really took a lot of courage for me to open up that baggage and realize, wow, where did all this come from? I can't believe I've been carrying this around with me for this long. And then having the courage to go sort through it all. It's one thing to have the awareness. And for me, awareness is the key to healing. Without the awareness, you're not going to go anywhere. But with the awareness, just go slowly, and piece by piece, you get to unpack whatever it is that you feel like is holding you back, holding you down, preventing you from getting to this next level where you want to go in your life.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on that one. And really, I think the awareness comes down to our own, I say BS, our own belief system. A lot of people say, whoa, BS, what? But it really is our belief systems, isn't it, Sabrina? What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I think you've heard me talk about belief systems so many times when it comes to, how to start with that awareness and how to really dig deep and heal. So I definitely agree with that. But I think the reality for a lot of high performers is that on the outside, everything looks like it's perfect, it's aligned, and action, strategy, discipline, everything's there. But inside, they just feel disconnected. They feel kind of numb because they're working on that safety mode or autopilot.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's a good place to start, is when you recognize that you've lost that passion, that you feel numb or you feel disconnected from what you're doing. Dig into that.
But that's the challenge, isn't it? It's so scary to go into those deeper places. And a lot of people tend to avoid, they kind of skirt around a little bit, the edge maybe, with self-help books, or therapy is really good, although we really have to take responsibility and go a little deeper into those spaces. What do you think about that, Victoria? As I know you've been in some pretty deep areas in your own life.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah, for me in doing this work, I've noticed a trend, and a trend that I fell into years ago, which is, people will talk about, well, I've read the books, I journal, I pray, I'm meditating. Okay, great. That's wonderful. You have all this knowledge. It's kind of like if you say, I know how to, build an airplane. I know I could write it down and I can show you how to build an airplane. Okay, great. So now you built the airplane. Now it's time for you to get in the airplane. And people are like, well, wait. Yeah, you have to actually do it. You have to embody it. You get to embody it. If you want to move on past all the baggage, all the stories you've been telling yourself, you have to prove it to yourself, your ego. You have to prove it to your ego and say, listen, I'm not afraid anymore. And I'm not just going to keep talking about it or writing about it or praying about it. I get to embody it. And that will shrink that ego right down. And that's how you empower yourself.
It is very deep work, although once you get in there, it's very uncomfortable. Although afterwards, there's such a big relief, isn't there, Sabrina? I know you've been in those places as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a huge relief because you feel like you're finally free from the things that have been holding you back and holding you down and that have driven you to kind of lose that passion. So, yeah. I think just anchoring back into yourself and really figuring out what makes you passionate again, or what makes you happy, and ignoring a lot of what the exterior world has to share with you about who you are and what you enjoy doing, because that's something that only you can be honest with yourself about. And that's where it really starts to move forward, is when you can recognize that's your authentic truth.
And you really hit the nail on the head with that, because when we pay attention to us and what sparks our inspiration, then we alleviate that pressure of what others might be placing on us, or looking outside ourselves thinking, oh, that person has got it, or I need to do X, Y, and Z in order to be successful. I need to keep striving and doing all these things. And that's that pressure, that weight that we're talking about here. And when we can be in a space where we can step back and take a breath and appreciate, the insights, what we want to do, what makes us feel better, then that alleviates that pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, I just did a post on LinkedIn about being called a Stefford wife. And that's really, we would joke about it. But honestly, it's kind of sad when I think about it, where I really was trying to maintain this role that was not authentic for myself. But, I felt that it was important for me to appear a certain way. My house, my children, everything to present in a way so that I could just wear this mask. Maybe I would fool everybody that I was happy and I was well. Just going through the 3D world of performing and doing and never being, not even knowing what that meant. And then when there was downtime and I could be, I felt guilt and shame about that because I should be performing. So moving past the image, and like you mentioned, April, about authenticity, I didn't even know really what that word meant for years. And now I find myself using it all the time, especially with the people that I work with, because that's really, that's the part of us where we came into this world, free, at peace, trusting, having faith. And for me, it was the trusting that I struggled with the most, mainly because I didn't trust myself because of, all the trauma that I had gone through in my life. So yeah, finding the authentic self and understanding what is that? What does that mean, the authentic self? Most people don't even know, what that means. And it's so important to realize that we are programmed a certain way to perform a certain way in this culture. And the reason why there's so much depression and anxiety and all these mental illnesses is because we are just performing, and it's not true for us. It's not fulfilling.
Yeah, the fulfilling part is if our cup is already empty, if we're doing so much for other people or to accomplish something which is very hollow, and I'm just going to say it's very shallow. We're just skimming the surface here. It might give us some little glimpses. It might give us a little bit of spark as we're doing the things, but it's not really deep, fulfilling to our soul, to what our purpose is. And it takes time, though. It really does. It takes time to ourselves, and we need that space to pause and reflect, so that way we can, yeah, this might not be the direction I want to go, instead of still trying to run and chase that carrot that we're never gonna get it. Yeah, right now in this moment, as you're watching this video, or even on the recording of it, this is where your power lies. This is where you are connecting with yourself, or not. It's back to that responsibility. And Victoria, I want to talk about that trust. And Sabrina, hold that thought about the responsibility. So the trust is so important, because when we can tune in and start trusting ourselves, however that looks, a little glimpse of whatever that trust looks like, then we start believing in ourselves. And when we believe in ourselves and we know we're heading in the right direction, then we can appreciate ourselves. So I worked in the correctional facilities. I brought in wellness classes and talked about mindfulness. And I literally asked both the women and the men, these were returning citizens, they were going to be released on a work program. And I asked them, do you trust yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And most of them said no.
Yeah.
They don't trust themselves because of the label that was placed on them, because they believe their past experiences forged who they are for the future, because of the quote unquote mistakes they made that got them into where they were. And I said, once you learn to trust yourself and then you start believing in yourself, then you can appreciate yourself. And then that's when we really truly know our authentic, right, self.
Yes,
And we can start, and I'm going to say the 4-letter word, love ourselves, because a lot of people, they shy away from that love, and it doesn't have to be mushy gushy love. It's more of, wow, I love my life. I love how other people are coming in, because this is what we do. We attract what we're doing. We attract like-minded people. And if you don't
absolutely.
believe that, focus on how you feel when you're around certain people. And that will tell you right away. Do you feel depleted? Do you feel the pressure to perform or to behave a certain way that's outside of who you truly are? Just bring it back to what makes me feel good right now. I have a choice. I can say, no, thank you for this invitation, especially during the holidays, right? Being pulled in different directions. That depletes our energy. So fill yourself up with people that are like-minded, that remember your inner spark. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yes.
couldn't agree more.
Sabrina, I know she has something to share about that.
Yeah. When I was in a similar situation in terms of having just a toxic relationship at home, and the people that I was surrounded by were more people that were feeling the same way as I did. And that just didn't help me grow. That actually fed into everything that I was feeling. And it made everything that I was feeling that much worse because here I was connecting with a bunch of people that were constantly talking about how awful it felt. And
Mhm.
so it then becomes a choice of starting to really find people, things, experiences in your life that are going to support the growth that you need. And then being willing to take the lessons that you've learned from those experiences to tie it into your next road forward or journey forward. And I think that's a start. But
Mhm.
until you actually start being honest with yourself about what it is that you're feeling, all of these, like, the trauma that has been stored in your body is going to stay there, and it's going to be underlying, and it's going to stay trapped there, and it's going to form your beliefs. It's going to form those next experiences, your decisions, and everything moving forward. So until you can really start to take responsibility for the things that you're going through and really be honest, start to change.
Exactly. And then Alexandra is chiming in, and she says that accountability is one of the first steps to embodying. Taking your power back takes time, patience, and grace with yourself, with leading into the uncertainty and uncomfortability. Yes, these are the uncomfortable spaces. Although having somebody like you, Sabrina, to coach people, to work with the different practices that you do with your clients, can you just give us an example of an experience you've had with a client, walking beside them on this path?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with somebody, a lot of past experiences that have put a really big hit to her confidence, and not just her confidence, but she's currently living in an environment that is toxic for her. So it keeps feeding into that lack of confidence. And so I started to help her by just allowing her to take a moment to sit with everything that she's going through and to pretend, instead of being herself, pretend that this is a friend that's going through this experience. And you're looking at all of these challenges as an outsider rather than somebody who is inside it. And so that's the first thing that I've helped her to do, was really look at things objectively. So she's not in the emotion of everything. And that way she has more of a chance to think a bit more logically instead of from that emotion. So with that, we were able to then, after she was feeling where all of these experiences are arising from, is it coming from her emotions? That's when I started to go into hypnotherapy and allowing her to separate from the emotions, look as an outsider, see herself as her highest self, that confident person that's really in the position that she sees herself becoming. And when we can do this repeatedly, it starts to replace a lot of the old programming and the conditioning that we've been through. And I know there's so much to dig in here, so I'm just going to kind of leave it there because there's so much more we do, but I need space for you ladies.
And that's so important, Sabrina, what you just said, so that way, because when we truly believe that BS, right, the belief system of who we are and what happened to us and why we're where we're at right now, we really can't see past it. You know, it's like we're looking through a little keyhole. And we know that there's something on the other side of the door, but it's just seems a little daunting to open it, you know, because of the emotions that are tied to our beliefs, because the body holds everything for us. And when the body doesn't feel safe, it's going to put that little alert system up there, you know, red flag. And it's, you know, that's that sympathetic nervous system. That is how we keep ourselves safe. But it defaults back to it because of it being hypervigilant, not feeling safe because of the trauma, because of past experiences. And then when we can just have somebody from the outside, you know, show us in a different way what's happening, then that's when we can ease and we can, you know, have a different perspective of ourselves. Yeah, Victoria, I know that you have some wise wisdom to share in this aspect.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, it's reminding me of, you know, my own journey back when, you know, I use the analogy of a door, right? So I get I get the awareness that there's something behind that door, and I feel like I should really look at it. And the awareness is I have the key in my hand, and then it's a choice for me. Am I going to open that door and take a look? And when I work with people, I say it doesn't mean you have to go in yet. You know, open the door, take a look inside, and it might seem scary in the beginning, right? If you want to close the door again and wait, and we can use what other tools that might make you feel safe. Because for me, I wasn't willing to take another step forward unless I felt safe. And where was I going to get the safety from? Well, trust. Well, I didn't have a lot of that going on. So now what do? Right? Well, that's where the work comes in. That's where I get to look at these wounds that I've been walking around with, ignoring, feeling them. Like Sabrina was saying, like our body remembers, you know, the panic attacks that I would get and the shaking throughout my body. Why is this happening to me? Well, because, you know, I'm not trusting myself. And the wiring that was done to me told me that, you know, maybe being out in public or being seen or being in crowded areas are unsafe for me. So that was a story I made up. So I got to look at that story, and I'm the one holding the pen. There's a clean slate. I get to change this story. I get to start. And even if I'm not quite believing it just yet, just knowing that I do have the freedom, it's a choice that I can make. You know, it's that fork in the road that we all come to, where this free will stuff isn't always fun, but it's really important for us to make the decision. Are we going to stay in the path that we've been going on, or are we going to go on this new one? And that's really important because I didn't like anything new or unfamiliar, but I knew the path that I was on was probably going to kill me eventually. and it wasn't healthy for me. I had the awareness and I looked at the key and I made the choice to go into the unknown, to take a leap of faith, because the way that I was managing my life, believing all the stories, was not working for me anymore. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important, just to have, like you said, that the keyhole or the peephole, just to look through that is a start. It doesn't mean you have to open the door and jump right in. It's a foot in the door, literally.
Yes, and you said something so powerful there, Victoria, that we have the pen, and I believe, because I've been there too, right? Making a mistake, we have this blank sheet of paper. I don't want to mess it up.
Right.
I don't, what if I write something or I do something that's going to, no, this is how we get messy. And this is how we learn about ourselves. That's what the first and foremost, we're learning about ourselves first. This builds that trust and that amazing place where we can discover more about ourselves in the process, for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah, I see. Mike is here with us. I guess he was having a challenge. There's always these little glitches. He calls them gremlins, with making comments on, with LinkedIn or Facebook. Or so if you're trying to comment, Red Rover, come on over to YouTube, Living with Intention, April Wyatt. That's where we're going to see your comments, because I think other people have been texting me saying, I can't comment. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here. You're amazing. And that's how I met Sabrina. And it's still continuing, right, to grow. We are the ripple effect. And when we have a community of support, then we feel safe. We feel that we can tune into these deeper conversations because it's real. This is real. It's not a 5-step program and you get this goal and you obtain this certificate. And
No
it's
trophies.
it's more of the 5 trips, that you stumble, you fall, you pick yourself back up. You say, oh, there was a hole there. That old story, right? You're walking along, you trip, you fall in a hole, you blame somebody for putting the hole there. And then you're on the same path and you stumble in the hole again, you stub your toe. This time you don't fall in it, but then you're like, damn, no one's filled that hole in yet. And then you're walking again, come across that hole. Oh, there's the hole. I can walk around it. So this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about awareness, knowing that you are responsible for this. And that can be a really hard thing to take responsible, for. What are your thoughts about that, Sabrina, about owning it?
Well, I think it's first important to realize that if you kind of keep going in circles in a loop, thinking and overthinking about the same things in your mind over and over and over again, it's just your mind, again, just trying to keep you safe, because that's the brain's way of avoiding any unresolved emotional pain. The solution isn't to think more. Instead, it's to, like Victoria was saying, to feel safe. And so it starts by recognizing what is now going to make you feel safe. What is the first thing that you can do? And I think the first thing that you can start to recognize is your body's cues. What is your body telling you when it comes to sensations? Like, when I'm in this experience or this situation, do I start having racing thoughts? Does my chest get tight? Do I get forgetful or tired? So it then becomes trusting what your body is feeling so that you can reconnect to whatever your true capacity is.
Yes, and we have the amazing Julie Johnson here with us. Thank you so much. She's also, a trauma-informed therapist, and she has her own app. And I'm going to host her, or she's hosting me actually next week on a podcast, and I will have her on as well. And these are great people that are chiming in here. So if you're not familiar with these amazing lights, please reach out to them as well. Reach out, because together we're better. And this is how we're learning and unlearning through the process. We're all, I say, mirrors of each other.
Yeah.
This is how we learn and grow together. And it's not about doing it on our own. Yeah. So Victoria, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You wrote a book.
I did.
You wrote a book about your own challenges. You had more than a weight. I mean, you had boulders. You were buried. Can
Yeah.
you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, had been thinking about writing that book for a few years, and it took me a while.
What's the title of the book?
Oh, yes, that would be helpful. No straitjacket required. Yeah, it was released on Amazon this past March, and to my surprise, became a #1 bestseller. So honored by that. Really, that was a big wake up call for me that I was on the right path. And this is me trusting myself. That book really catapulted me into a different level of like, wow, like I can make a big difference on this planet with my story. My little old story that I wasn't even going to share with anyone ended up being the story of many, many, many people, packaged differently, but really we're all the same, right? We're connected. We've all had those fears. It just may show up a little bit differently. But that book was really teaching me, was a great teacher for me to trust that putting my story out there and whatever was going to happen was going to happen, whether my family was going to hate me and never talk to me again. People were not going to be uncomfortable about me, and they were going to like making up the negative self-talk at times, but I had the awareness. So I said, no, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how anyone's going to react or respond to this book. And you know what? It's not our problem. How other people react or respond to what I do to heal myself is really not my problem. I stay in my lane, and I'm focused on doing something that was very uncomfortable for myself, which was putting myself first. So again, the trust comes in, trusting that being so vulnerable, which was something I held tight to, not being vulnerable, right? To holding, doing the performance of everything is great and there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any trauma or wounds to deal with. Look at my life. Look how great everything is. Don't I look at like, what else do I need to do to prove it to you? Right? Until I couldn't hold it anymore. And I was white knuckling it. And something was like, why don't you just let go? And I was like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. No one told you could just release. No, I didn't know that was an option. Okay. And then it was like the book was done, and I really put my heart and soul, and it's just my whole story. I have nothing to hide from people anymore. And I'm so proud of those wounds. I'm so proud of the journey. I'm so proud of the rabbit holes I went down, the dark days. Like I've alchemized all of it, and I use it as my rocket fuel now to just catapult me into this space I've never been in, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the ride.
Oh, yes. It is about the ride, and it's about, and it sounds very kind of counterintuitive, to be appreciative of having to go through the struggle, having to acknowledge the burden of this weight that we're carrying, however that shows up. And I just want to shout out to Linda Meyer for being here, because she is a grief counselor and talking about weight, right? The grief, the heaviness, and things of that nature. So thank you, Linda, for chiming in and being here for your support, because we need people to be here. We need to know that we can reach out, that there is support, that there is help. And we don't have to go it alone. Yes, there is something about going within and finding that trust, but trust enough to be that transparent, that vulnerability, as Victoria, you alluded to. This is how we grow. This is how we learn more about ourselves and build that resiliency. Yeah. Sabrina.
Yeah, I think when I'm hearing you talk about building resiliency, that is also about reclaiming your presence, your power, your peace, the things that you subtly abandon when you hold that kind of invisible pressure that Victoria was talking about. She's talking about holding all of this weight. And then finally, when she released it out on paper and she wrote her book and she got these experiences out, that's what it provided her, that relief. It gave her her power back. She finally started to feel safe and peace again. So I think that's a really important part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. We need to remember that and finding those ways to express, such as writing or connecting with others.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. I love this conversation. It's amazing. We, have all these people chiming in and they're so excited about what we're talking about. And I think that's also part of it too. Being open and receptive to listen and tune in and recognize when we're in these spaces. It's so important. And so I do have a question for you, Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
So when you work with those people who are carrying that deep emotional, that often they can't speak it, maybe they're scared or they're not able to articulate it even, right? They just feel this constant, right? What is this a subtle sign though? Maybe they think this is just how life is, right? I'm just thinking about the people that I've talked to, right? They're like, oh, life is hard. And, I have to push through. I have to hold this. No one else is going to do it. So I got to do it myself. So what is a subtle sign that a person is holding more than what they realize, right? How can they begin to soften that load without overwhelming themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, usually the sign that comes up for me is I can tell immediately when someone is lying to themselves, because that's the water I swam in. I lied to myself and believed all the lies. So not, of course, saying, you're a liar, you're lying to me. Can't do that. We want to be gentle and compassionate. So providing a safe space for people. And I think how I do that is I show up authentically. And a lot of times I don't even have to say much. It's like just being in the presence of somebody who really, I'm being an example of self-love, and I'm sending them love. And they may not even be aware of it, but something subconsciously is speaking to them where they're picking up, this seems like a safe place. I don't think she has a negative agenda. I don't think she's out for something. I don't have to be hyper vigilant with her. She's just being present and providing this space for me. And what I tend to do, because I am very relatable, oh boy, I've been through everything, right? So 9 out of 10 times when someone brings up something, I've done that or I've been there. So I will just quietly wait for a sign. And then I just go in with a story about myself. And just doing that will initiate for that person to feel the trust. And trust not for me, of course, but for themselves. And this is a great tool for them to learn how to listen to their higher self, right? I'm providing an opportunity. This is what it looks like when you can trust yourself and listen to your higher self. So we're building a muscle that you've never used, that you don't even know exists, right? So it's just practice, practice, practice. But in doing that, I can't tell you how many times, and I haven't been doing this very long. It's not like I've had hundreds of clients. I've had maybe 15, I'm, really learning as I go. But so many people, even if it's a short conversation, has said, I'm going to tell you something that I've never, ever shared with anyone before. I can't believe I'm going to share this with you, but I feel like I should. And I'm honored. Please do. And that's usually how it unfolds for me. It's just organic. It's me showing them that I'm trusting myself too,
Mhm.
listening to my higher self, because I don't go in with a plan, that 4-letter dirty word plan that the universe laughs at when we make it.
It
Right?
is so true, so true.
Yeah, you go ahead and make those plans, Victoria. Ha, 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 right? And then here I end up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which wasn't even on my radar. Won't get into that. But yes, I think it's just this trust thing is such a mighty tool. It's such a mighty tool.
Yes, it is. It really is. And just being that sanctuary of support for others is key. I truly believe that people need to feel safe, and then then their nervous system relaxes. Let's go into the science. This is how I work. I feel into it. I know this is truth, but also I want to know the science behind it. So when we are in a safe space, when we know that this person is authentically listening to us and holding space for us and willing to go there with us, then we can unload a little bit more, relieve that pressure here. And I do want to shout out to Colleen, because she's an amazing person with simplified CEO systems. And she is that person that holds that spaces to get all the back work done, but her presence, and she shows up genuine and authentic. I love her lambs that she posted recently on LinkedIn. So thank you, Colleen, for being here. And one more question, though, I have, and that's for Sabrina. So you talked about this before, right? That disconnection, right? And you're such an intuitive worker when you work with people. So when professionals, disconnect from their intuition, and when that pressure builds, right? What's one way someone can bring that reconnecting, right? Getting back to that part of themselves, right? Tuning into that intuitive voice.
Yeah.
When that stress or old emotional residue is clouding their clarity, what can they do to bring themselves back to that?
Starting by really truly starting to recognize what it is that your body is feeling when it's feeling these things. And because once you start getting those emotional cues from your body, or those somatic triggers, whatever you want to label them, that is when you really discover, like, okay, so when I go through this experience, this is what I'm going to feel, and this is where I'm going to feel it. And getting in touch with that, grounding yourself in those emotions and feelings, is really the first step to connecting. And I usually guide people through a hypnotherapy meditation through feeling this and grounding themselves in their own energy, so that they can start to do that, reconnect, and then recognizing some of the thoughts that come up as they do, and how authentic are those thoughts as they're rising.
Yes, is this true? Is this true? Or is this just a pattern that keeps coming up? As Victoria, both you and Sabrina talked about, the survival. This is just how we're hardwired. But even asking, is this even true right now? How is this serving me? Is this an old echo? I call it echoes. We have echoes. The body holds everything. And science has shown how the fascia, the tissues between the muscles, actually holds emotion, actually holds memory. That's where I was blown away with what I do as a somatic performance coach, working with the biodynamic breath work, and how I had an experience with breathing. And it's a connected breath. It's not the get out of your body and I'm way up here breath. It's connected. It's witnessing what's showing up in your body. People, this is our container. This is where we live, is here. It's not out there. And so when we can lean in and listen a little bit more, then things just unravel. The tensions, the weight, the pressures that we place on ourselves. This is where we can breathe easier. We can flow with life, as I know Curtis would agree with me, as he's tuning in here too. Yes. So before we go, I just want to bring up Sabrina again. Any last words for our viewers or people that watch, later on? What do you want them to know about alleviating that quiet, weight within that they're holding on to right now, possibly?
Yeah, don't be afraid. Just because you've been so programmed and that you've been so used to storing things in your body in a specific way, don't be afraid to give yourself permission to let it go and to start really using April's breath work to breathe into it, to start recognizing where you're feeling it. And yeah, I really truly think that that's one of the first steps that people need to start feeling safe.
It does start with the breathing. That's the only thing that we can control in our autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
This is where the healing happens from the inside out. And so, Sabrina, for those who are curious about you, how do you want them to connect with you? I already put below you your LinkedIn account, or LinkedIn link, I should say. Uh, just, yeah,
LinkedIn, YouTube. You'll see on my LinkedIn all the different ways that you can connect with me. You can call, email, or use my website to set up a call. I have call links set up there. So LinkedIn and YouTube are the two primary ways that I say reach out and connect.
wonderful. And I tried to share that, but, there we have some gremlins happening here. And
Always.
maybe I can then, maybe it'll let me share it now. So I don't know. Here we go. So there's Sabrina's YouTube channel. She is amazing. I highly encourage anyone who's curious to explore hypnotherapy, explore ways energetically to help alleviate the pressures that our mind, the BS, is really, integrated into everything we do. And that's not right or wrong. It's just how we're programmed.
Yeah. You're not broken. You're just
Yeah.
programmed.
Exactly. Thank you, Sabrina, so much. And Victoria, last words for our viewers here.
Yes, I love what Sabrina said, and I did hypnotherapy back in February, and that really changed me. I really it was I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It was wonderful, and yeah, I think embodying wherever you are, no matter how many tools you have, whether you've earned a lot of tools or you just have a little bit, starting just with the basics. And that's how you build up the trust, using your tools. They're going to be there. You can look at them all day long, but they're not going to use themselves, right? We get to go over and say, you know what? Am I going to stay stuck? Stay here? No, I know I'm better than this. I know this is not making me happy. What's the worst thing that can happen if I use a tool? You don't have to jump into this new water that you want to swim in. You can dip a toe in. Just try it little by little. There's no deadlines here. Just, I was going to say stay in your comfort zone, but don't stay in your comfort zone, but you don't have to go so far out that you get so scared that you never want to go back.
That's so spot on. So spot on.
Thank you. And
Yes.
to connect with me right now, because I'm new, I don't have a website or any other thing going on.
Yet, that's coming.
2026, that's all going to change. But LinkedIn, that's where you can reach me.
Yes, and this is why we're here. We're here to, bring amazing people such as yourselves forward, so that way we know that we don't have to do this alone.
Amen.
There's a lot of things happening out there, a lot of things that are influencing very distractions, happening in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in the world globally. So having somebody like Sabrina and Victoria to reach out to help just unpack things a little bit, see it from a different perspective, easing that weight. I use the Instant Pot, right? You need that quick release valve to happen there. And this is what these ladies are here to do. And also, I just want to shout out to my beautiful friend, Noriko Whitfield, who is tuning in here too. She's an amazing sound healer, and she's in San Diego. I know that she'll be doing some online things, but right now she's more in person, and she also helps people through grief. So, Noriko, you need to connect with Linda, who was on here earlier. And I know that this is why we're here. We're here to create this community. And again, I want to thank the Hounds of Business for making this happen, and know that we are all here together. And I so appreciate you both showing up and shining and helping to alleviate the weight for others too. So please reach out to these amazing ladies and reach out to me. Bali's coming up in October, and I would absolutely love to share that space with you. It's not an escape, it's a place to pause so that way you can rise. So until next time, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you. And until next time, keep living with intention.